interview day. We are recording this for folks who weren't able to join today, just so they can have it to go back and look at. We are so excited to see all of y'all and to have you all joining us here in a couple of months. Jennifer and I have been working hard on M1 Welcome Week and getting everything ready for you all when you get here in August. So there are a few things that we like to do in the summer just to kind of get you guys ready. In the past, we have done a couple of summer Zooms. We actually added this one as a bit more of a standalone Zoom today, to talk a bit more about financial aid for you all and to try and do it as soon as possible, because there are such big changes in financial aid, with the 13B, the one big beautiful bill that was passed, I guess probably about a year ago, that has changed quite a bit about student loans and especially professional student loans. So we wanted to try and get you guys as up to date on that as we could, as soon as we could, leading up to y'all starting here in a couple of months. So I also, though, want to introduce a few other key people on this Zoom. So Jennifer Van Echo is one of the people that you all have been getting emails from. Jennifer is one of our program managers in the undergraduate medical education curriculum office. She and I are the dynamic duo of orientations. And so getting ready for Welcome Week, we do other orientations for the other classes too. But you will hear a lot from Jen as we ramp up to August. Also, Mr. Tom South, who many of you know, who is our Assistant Dean of Admissions for the UAMS College of Medicine, and Jesse Cargill, who is our Director of Admissions, and Amy Widener, who is our Director of Recruitment. And then I think we also have Dr. Tracy Haslow on the call. Dr. Haslow, you around?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
turn my camera on.
Yes. So Dr. Tracy Haslow is the director of our student wellness program, who also is joining us today. Dr. Haslow, did you want to say anything about the student wellness program, or you're just here to listen?
I am here to listen, and I will be meeting with you guys and talking more about my program during your orientation.
Yes. But as you can imagine, if there are financial issues that are also going on while you're in medical school, that can make you sometimes have a little bit of anxiety. And some of us are already just anxious at baseline. Dr. Haslow felt like it would be helpful for her to kind of hear about the financial aid changes too. So, but you will definitely see much more of her at Welcome Week. Mr. South, Jesse, Amy, anything that y'all wanted to share?
We're thrilled that you guys will be with us for the class of 2030 in just a few short weeks. So it'll be a new chapter in your lives. And so we congratulate you and look forward to you being on our campus.
Absolutely. Also, just a couple of reminders before we go to the financial aid piece. Um, We do still have the two other Zooms that are coming up for you all. One that is about kind of where to live in Little Rock or Northwest Arkansas, just different things about like where our students live, where they shop, where they go to the gym. They are putting together a whole PowerPoint for you all, the M2s on all that kind of information. So that's coming up. And then we have another Zoom that's on kind of how to prepare for starting medical school. We generally get a lot of questions from you all about, do I need to buy any books? What supplies do I need? And that Zoom will also kind of cover a lot of those questions. Here's a spoiler. You don't need to buy much of anything right now. Just enjoy your summer. Go read good books. Read books because you want to, not because you have to. That is my advice. The other thing I just wanted to remind you is if you have time, please try and come by our office so that you can get your new badge. And you can try on your white coat because we would like to get those ordered as soon as we can to get them all embroidered and monogrammed for you all for the white coat ceremony. So don't forget to put that on your list of things to do at some point. I hope y'all can't hear the dogs in the background, but if you can, I'm sorry. Um, don't forget to do that this summer. All right, so our headliner tonight is Janice Nottenkamper. Janice works with our Office of Financial Aid here at UAMS, and she is an essential person for you all to know. She helps all of our students kind of think about financial aid, what their student loans may look like, how much they need to take out in student loans, and also do some financial planning of how do you utilize that money to make it last as long as you can possibly make it last through the school year. So she's going to talk with you all a little bit more about that. So Janice, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Latch. It's nice to be here with you guys that are getting ready to start medical school. So congratulations. You've done a lot to get here. But I think the work is just beginning. So we're going to get started with the financial aid part, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint. Let's see. Okay, as Dr. Latch said, I work with you guys to help you plan a budget, discuss what's available as far as financial aid is concerned, and hopefully make that last throughout the time that you are in school for the semester and for the years. So tonight we're going to talk about financial aid. And when we talk financial aid in the financial aid office, we mean loans and grants. So a lot of people will say, well, I'm not getting financial aid, I'm only getting loans. But that is financial aid. We're going to look at the tuition and fees, and we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting. So the first thing I want to suggest for you guys is to complete your FAFSA. And I already see a typo for 23-24. So you are completing the 26-27 free application for federal student aid. So that all starts at studentaid.gov. And this begins the process of applying for your student loans. I would recommend that you go ahead and do that now so that you've got that out of the way. Our College of Medicine students are considered independent students, so you do not have to include parents in on the financial aid process. Just get your FAFSA completed. It should be a pretty simple process since you're going to be an independent student. And be sure to include the financial aid, the federal code for UAMS, which is listed here, so that we receive your FAFSA information. So that's very important. So once you complete the FAFSA, it will link with our system, which is Workday. Workday is still, we just rolled that out last year, and so it's a fairly new system, but this is where you will accept or decline your awards is beginning in Workday. We'll communicate with you through your email to let you know things. You've been awarded, we've received your FAFSA, things of that nature. So once we get the FAFSA, it links with our system, and then we'll send you a letter that says, hey, we got your FAFSA and we'll be awarding you soon. Or you may get a response that says something like, we still need these items. If you've been selected for verification, or if there's some sort of a flag on your FAFSA. So you'll just want to work with the financial aid office to get that resolved. I recommend once you've been awarded that you try to have your awards accepted about 4 weeks prior to the start of the semester. That's not a hard rule. We do award students year round, but if you want to have everything taken care of before school starts so that your tuition and fees are paid on time and you're receiving your refund, I would say try to have everything done 4 weeks prior to the beginning of the start. Again, that's not a have to, but I think it'll be helpful, just as Dr. Latch said, getting an early start and getting things done. So as I said, we do award students year round. So if you decide middle of the semester, middle of the year, hey, I didn't take out financial aid, but I want to do that now, you certainly can. During the award process, you'll be awarded or you'll be offered a book voucher. The book voucher is not additional money, but it does allow you to charge your books at the UAMS online bookstore, and then those charges are posted to your student account. So if you're not going to buy books or you're not going to buy them through us, and you don't need that voucher, no harm, no foul. It just goes away. The other thing I want to mention once you've accepted your awards is you'll be instructed to complete a master promissory note for your unsubsidized loan. A master promissory note is a promise to pay. It's like what we used to call a loan application that actually used to be on paper that you filled out with a pen back in the old days. But you'll complete your master promissory note and your loan entrance counseling. That's all done at studentaid.gov. So you may accept your awards, but if you don't complete the prom note and the loan entrance counseling, the loans don't disperse. So I would advise you to watch your UAMS email, be sure you're looking at that, and look at action items that are listed on your Workday account. So if you need to do something to finish your financial aid, you should have an action item that says, hey, you've accepted your awards, now complete this prom note, and there'll be a link in there that'll take you to studentaid.gov to do that. The other thing that you'll want to set up is direct deposit. Probably most of you are going to be accepting loans for living expenses, money that you'll want refunded to you so that you can use that to live on. And our direct deposit is set up through Bank Mobile. That's a third-party servicer that we use. And you'll be instructed, you'll be sent email about setting up your direct deposit through Bank Mobile. Now, our bursar's office heads that up, and if you have questions, you would contact them. Most people seem to step through it pretty easily, but you'll definitely want to set that up as well. So those are just some things that you'll do in the onboarding process and set process. Whoops. So what types of loans are available for you guys? The first thing that we're going to talk about is the unsubsidized loan, and that is your federal loan through the Department of Education. The new maximum per award year is $50,000. So for unsub loans, medical students can be awarded a maximum of $50 per award year. So every year you would be awarded $50,000. The interest rate on this loan is 8.08% for this year. So every year the interest rates are determined by the Department of Education, and for loans that disperse from July 1 of this year through June 30 of next year, your interest rate is 8.08%. That's going to be a fixed interest rate for the life of that loan. And then every year you may have a different interest rate on each loan that disperses out. There's also an origination fee. It's like a processing fee that's charged on the unsub loan. It's a little over 1% of the amount that you borrow. So they'll just deduct that and send the rest of the school to the school. So you don't have to worry about that. So your loans will disperse to your student account. And then if there is any credit balance, then that credit balance would be refunded to you through the Bank Mobile, the direct deposit option. Now, there are also private student loans that are available. So if your unsubsidized loan, the $50,000 for the year, and that's going to be split, $25,000 for fall, $25,000 for spring. If that doesn't cover everything that you need, living expenses, tuition, and fees, then a private loan would be another option for you. Of course, there are also scholarships. The College of Medicine has a lot of options there. And then, of course, outside scholarships as well. But if you're just relying on loans for this year, then private student loans will be important for you. Private student loans are going to be something new this year for our graduate level students. You must be credit worthy or have a credit worthy cosigner for private student loans. Interest rates will vary based on your credit. So the better your credit, the lower your interest rate. Terms and conditions are variable. It depends on the lender. And so I would encourage you to shop around with private student loans. And we'll get into that a little more in a little bit more detail. So what do you need to consider when you're applying for private student loans? So do your research, compare rates, compare, what's the interest rate on this private student loan that I'm looking at? Are the rates fixed or variable? And what that means is when I take out this loan, is it fixed for the life of that loan, just like we talked about on that unsubsidized loan? Or is it going to vary depending on the economy? Is there a cap on my interest rate? In other words, is there a point where it can go no higher than, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say it's 8%. Is there a cap? Does it cap at 8% or does it cap at 5%? Whatever the case might be. When does your interest begin to accrue? And would you be able to get a lower interest rate if you were able to obtain a cosigner? And oftentimes these private student loan lenders offer a cosigner release. So after the borrower makes a certain number of on-time monthly payments, they will release the obligation to the cosigner. So those are things just to think about, just to sort of spark your mind to begin thinking about how do I need to go about this? So it's important, again, to do your research and compare. And I'll get to a website that we have where you can do that. We award up to cost of attendance. So the financial aid office builds a cost of attendance. And so when we talk about that cost, that's a combination of your tuition, fees, books, supplies, living expenses, all of the things, all of the average expenses for somebody in your program as an M1. And you can't exceed that cost of attendance. So your cost of attendance might be $75,000 for your M1 year. And then we would award you the $50,000 in the unsub. And then that difference, that other $25,000 would be the amount that you could request in private student loans, or that would also include loans and scholarships awarded to students. So keep in mind all of the things that you are accepting or receiving, whether it's a student loan, a federal student loan, a private student loan, or scholarships, are all in that cost of attendance. So just keep in mind you can't go over that amount. So when I'm budgeting with students, I always recommend, staying under budget, not being at the top of your budget. Now, there are a couple of increases that you can apply for that increase your cost of attendance. So what that would do is increase your amount of student loans or scholarships that you qualify for. So there's a computer budget adjustment that's available if you need to purchase a computer. And if you're wanting to use that, you would not want to purchase that computer until 30 days prior. So sometime 30 days prior to the beginning of your classes is when you would want to purchase that computer. So your receipt has to be dated no more than 30 days before the start. And so you would submit that information to the financial aid office. There's a form on our website that you complete, and you submit that with the receipts, and that will increase your cost of attendance. There's also a child care increase that's available for dependent child care expenses. So it works the same way. You submit your form that we have on the our website. You submit your documentation to the financial aid office. Once it's approved, they increase your cost of attendance, and that increases the amount of loan money and scholarships that you can qualify for. So tuition and fees, this is with the bursar's office. Estimated resident tuition and fees are $19,528 per semester, and estimated non-resident tuition and fees $33,741 per semester. So those have not been officially approved by the Board of Trustees, so that's why I say estimated. Tuition and fees are due on the first day of the term. You do have payment plans that are available on your Workday account if you need to make payments throughout the semester. So it's split into 4 equal payments if you choose to do a payment plan. You can pay your tuition and fees online through your Workday account. You can pay in person in the bursar's office. You can mail a check in the old-fashioned way. So there are several ways you can get your tuition and fees paid. So I would encourage you to make a budget. And this is a lot of what I do. I work with you guys to plan a budget. What is it that I'm going to spend? And I've got a sample budget here that shows the spreadsheet that I send out. And we've got all of our expenses that we're accounting for here. And then we're going to take that total expense. We're going to break that down per semester. And then we're going to add in your tuition and fees and figure out what is it that you really need to borrow. And this is a great place to start. If you're not making a budget, you really don't know how much to request, how much money you're going to need. And by making a budget, it helps you set goals. Just by doing this, you're already setting a goal saying, I'm going to spend $400 on groceries or $100 on gas, whatever it might be. And that helps keep you from overspending when you set goals. And when you figure out these numbers, then you can monitor those numbers to see if they're accurate. So when we figure out, okay, this is what we think you're going to spend, then you can actually monitor those numbers each month and see if that's accurate and make adjustments. So I would encourage you to contact me and set up a meeting. I've already had a few people reach out to me, so that's great. And we'll set up a one-on-one. We can do a Zoom if you are out of state or not in Little Rock. We can also set up an in-person meeting if you want to do that and plan the budget, figure out what you need to borrow, and then I can take the stress out of that for you. So, because it is stressful taking care of things that you're not real familiar with. And this might be new. This might be your first time moving out into an apartment and managing all of these things on your own. So student financial services, I've mentioned the financial aid office and the bursar's office. We're in 3 different divisions in student financial services. So we're all in the same office. The financial aid office handles the awarding process. So if you have questions about the FAFSA, then that would be a financial aid question. If you're selected for verification, if you've got, a question about your awarding process, you would contact financial aid. Candace Lane is the College of Medicine liaison in the financial aid office, so she will be happy to help you with any of your questions. The bursar's office handles the tuition and fees, refunds, disbursements, payment plans if you've got questions about that, third-party payments if you're a veteran, if you have rehabilitation services money, they bill those for you guys. And then debt management is my area, so I help you guys with budgeting, figuring out how much money you need to take out, all the things that we've just talked about. And then on the back end, I can help you with preparing for student loan repayment and options for PSLF and other types of loan forgiveness. So that's the 3 different areas in student financial services. So I've got some helpful links here. So if you need to contact financial aid, you would call or email. If you need to contact the bursar's office, the same thing. And then this is my email address, and you can email or call me to set up an appointment for a budgeting session, and we can get that knocked out. I've got a couple of links here. This is a summary of the changes on the One Big Beautiful Bill. If you want to take a look at that and read through some things, and then if you've got questions, we can set up a time to talk. This is a link on our website for the private student loans. And I'm thinking, are you able to see the screen that says Student Financial Services?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our website where you can get started with your private loans. We use a third-party servicer called Fast Choice, and I would encourage all of you to go out here and familiarize yourself with this website, the private loan checklist, the lender. So this is going to list different lenders that we have worked with. Now, I will tell you, we can't suggest a lender because that's considered a conflict of interest. So if you said, well, Ms. Nottenkamper, who do you think I should use? I will say, I can't really tell you. So use this website to get into choice, and we'll see if we can take a look at this. So here's where you'll get started. You'll check graduate and professional student, and it's got, let's see, it's got some good information here, and then you start with the borrowing essentials. So it's going to ask you some questions, and so you go through that, and then it'll pull up different lenders. You'll be able to see interest rates, fees, things like that that you can easily compare on one screen. And then you can dive in a little deeper and look at different lenders that might appeal to you. So I think our website is going to be very helpful for you guys. These are online processes. If you have a lender in mind, a private lender that is not on our list, you can contact the financial aid office to add that particular lender to the list, and we'll be happy to do that. The other thing I want to let you know about is with private loans, the processing, the timing is a little bit longer than a federal loan. So there's typically a 9-day waiting period for private loans to disperse. So another reason to get started early, you don't want to wait until the last minute to apply for a private loan, and then you're needing that money to live on, and you need it right away. So again, I would really encourage you to get started early on this so that you're receiving your funding, on the very first day that you can, and then we're processing that refund for you. And typically refunds are received by direct deposit within 7 business days. So go ahead and get started on the private lending part early. And, if you have parents that are supportive and want to help, I would encourage you to have a conversation with them about cosigners. Would they be willing to cosign, and compare those interest rates? So there will be lower interest rates for some of you. I mean, it's based on credit, but our interest rate this year on the unsub is 8.08, and there are lower interest rates out there for private student loans. So that can be a very good thing. But if you have questions about this process, there is someone in the financial aid office that handles the private processes, the private student loans. And of course, you can reach out to Miss Lane, Candace Lane, and then we can also discuss that and plan a budget for you. So let me get out of this. So again, do read about the information here. And one other thing I want to mention to you guys, the aggregate limit on federal loans is $200,000. That equates to that $50,000 per year for 4 years. The overall limit is 257,500, would include undergrad debt. So it's important when you get into to start the semester that you're doing progressing through the way that you should to get the maximum benefit from financial aid. Um, if you deviate in any way, whether you want to take less hours or if you drop below full-time status, that can affect the amount of loan that you qualify for. So if you are wanting to take a leave of absence, if you're, like I said, deviating from the norm, from the standard of whatever you do academically in the College of Medicine, I would encourage you to reach out to someone before you make decisions to see how that's going to impact your financial aid. Um, because if you, like I said, if you drop below full time, then we're going to have to reduce the amount of loan money and your tuition is charged. It's not charged by the hour. So do keep in mind the impact that financial aid can have. And as Dr. Latch said, that can be stressful. So we want to help you avoid that, help you to be proactive and work with you to resolve things like that so that everything goes smoothly. And I believe that is it. I'm sure there are some questions or
Thanks so much, Janice. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight for you all is Jennifer did put it in the chat that there is the tax-free weekend coming up on August 1st and 2nd. So if you are in the market for a new computer, that's a great time to do that because you don't actually have to pay tax on that big purchase. And it works online as well as in person. So you don't necessarily have to go down to the Apple store. You can purchase it online if you want. The other thing I would say is you all are in the spot right now where you don't know a lot about what med school is going to look like. It is as Janice said, if you do kind of alter your course and you need to take fewer hours or take a leave of absence for some reason, all of that, all of those decisions are going to come through me. I'm going to have to help you with that one way or the other. And I will, my first stop is always to send you over to financial aid. So don't worry that you're somehow going to not do what you're supposed to do. Like I'm a strong believer in checklists, and I have a little checklist that I go over with every student. It's like we're flying a plane or something. We're gonna do a safety check first and make sure we go through all the things that you need to know before you make those decisions. And it really, in the M1 and M2 year, it's pretty rare for us to have a student who alters that course. It's one of those things you can't really do that med school in the M1 and M2 year kind of part-time. You kind of have to progress as planned. But certainly in the M3 and M4 year, we'll have students who have a slightly different course. I think the other thing I just want you all to think about is if you are anticipating getting a dual degree, especially the MBA, the MD MBA program, or the MD PhD program. Those both require an extra year of study that is outside of the normal medical school curriculum. And that's something that I think the financial aid office has explored a lot with the 13B, is how does that affect your financial aid? That if that's something you especially I think the MD MBA, the MD PhD has its own sort of financial ways that it can maneuver through that. But the MD MBA program, it is, I do worry that it's going to impact how you can take out student loans. So that is another time that you would definitely want to talk to financial aid to let them help with that decision. So, okay, I've talked enough. We're going to open it up for questions, but I did just want to mention those few things too.
I see a couple of questions in the chat. Oh, no,
Their
that's
comments
from
from
Jennifer.
Ben.
Never
Yeah.
mind.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for your lovely presentation. I was wondering if when we would know what the results of the freshman scholarship were, or if we were awarded anything. That way we could make those decisions taking that into account as well.
I saw Mr. South unmuting. I'm going to let him answer that question.
Okay. Well, the scholarship committee is responsible for looking at the scholarship applications that are submitted and then selecting students for various awards. Some of the awards are based on scholastic achievement, grades, so forth, academics. Some are awarded on community service and volunteerism, some on financial need, and then some has a combination of all those factors and so forth. So a number of the scholarships have been awarded. There are still a few scholarships that are left for the summer. The committee meets at least 3 to 4 more times during the summer months, and their next meeting is on the 2nd of June. So if you are approved for a scholarship, then we immediately notify you by email about the scholarship, the amount, and when it will be dispersed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I might add in, just as a little bit more information. If you receive a scholarship after you've already taken out the loans that you think you need, you can reduce your loans. So if you give money back within 120 days of the disbursement date, you'll get your interest and origination fees back on that portion. So it's like you never took it. So you can make changes throughout the academic year. So just to let you know.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. What other questions do you all have?
I had just a little bit of clarification question on the cost of living adjustment for purchasing a computer. So I know you mentioned it'd be better to do that within the 30 days prior to starting school. Um, does, I guess, the cost of living that gets determined by the school get adjusted? Like if we've already done our FAFSA and kind of gotten all of the um, loans maybe dispersed by that point or anything like that, does that, I guess, get adjusted later? Or I
Well,
guess
so with
I wasn't sure
if
about
you're purchasing a computer, then if you're purchasing it no more than 30 days prior to the beginning of the start, you can submit that to the financial aid office. Let's say the cost of the computer is $1,500. Then they would increase your cost of attendance by $1,500. And that would give you that much more room in your cost of attendance for additional loan money or if there's a scholarship or something like that.
All right. And so I
Does that
guess
help?
I think so, yeah. So by that point, I guess if we've already had like our loans dispersed and all that, we'd be able to kind of go back and I guess accept the additional money.
So you could, let's say, for instance, you bought a computer in October and we had already awarded your loans and everything, then we'll increase the cost of attendance. Then you would have to apply for additional loan money, but it would be there in your cost of attendance to apply for if you needed it.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Janice, we do have a couple other questions in the chat. Someone asked, around what time can we expect our financial aid packages to be awarded?
I'm not quite sure. They had some issues which have been resolved on the awarding. And so I'm going to estimate sometime in June, the 1st of June or thereabouts. And that's usually when we award M1s. So we start with our early starters. We have students that begin in May and have already started classes. So we award those first and then kind of go in order. So we have not awarded the August starters just yet, but it'll be coming soon.
And then we also have a question, what's the total cost of attendance, including tuition and fees?
Um, I do not have that. Um, how about if I get that and email that to you, Dr. Latch? Would that work?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I'll
And
get in-state and out-of-state.
okay, that sounds great. What other questions do you all have?
I have a clarifying question related to the one that you just mentioned. So, if we're only able to take out loans, um, private and federal, for our total cost of attendance, um, it says that UAMS accounts for reasonable costs of food, housing, transportation, and miscellaneous living expenses, and that information can be found on the Student Financial Services website, but that website doesn't list any cost of living fees. So I guess like how much does UAMS account for those fees?
Typically, the cost of attendance for College of Medicine is listed on the College of Medicine website, I do believe. I don't know if that's been sent over for this year. The financial aid office handles that, but those are some things I can follow up with. Um,
Okay, because it lists all of the
but
mandatory
typically,
fees and then all of the tuition and fees, but it doesn't list anything about cost of living.
well, it should be on the College of Medicine's website. So if it's not, I will follow up and get with the financial aid office to see if they've posted it yet and if they can post it. But be assured that the cost of attendance includes living expenses for reasonable living expenses for somebody in your program at your level. And and there's typically enough there. I mean, most people have no problem living off of the amount that's awarded. Um, unless you get really crazy with your spending. And what I'm here to do is help you guys with planning a budget. And and being proactive with planning a budget is really important.
Right. Thank you.
Sydney, I
Does that help,
jotted your
Sydney?
name down, and when I get that information, I'll let you know. I'll send you an email.
Hey, Dr.
Okay.
Latch.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm actually going to fixing to put that link in the chat.
Oh, okay.
It is on our new website, and it will link them, tells them where to go to the Student Financial Services.
Okay, great.
So,
Thanks, Jesse.
but
I don't know how many of you, am excited to get to know y'all better and find this information out. But if any of you do are responsible for more than just yourself, if you have kids, Janice talked a little bit about the childcare adjustment that can happen. We also have students who apply for SNAP benefits and things like that. And that is something that our office has tried to be as helpful with as we can as well. So if you are in that situation, feel free to reach out to Janice or to me. It seems that our SNAP requirements have changed such that for a while, some of our students were told they had to have a job in addition to being in medical school, and that is not something that is really possible many times during medical school. So we've tried to help with some letters and verbiage that can kind of help with that. So if you run into that problem, certainly reach out to me, and we'll see how we can help you with that. Janice, someone asked how many students usually have to take out both federal and private loans. I'm going to hazard a guess that that question is going to be a little bit hard for us to answer because most of our students previous to the 1-3B were able to do just fine with just federal loans. But now with the cap on federal loans, that's probably not going to be the case. So I can tell you what it has been in the past, but it's probably not going to apply to your class. Would that be, you agree, Janice?
Yeah, we don't have any data. This is our first year out with students borrowing private loans. So it's really just depends on your situation. If you're living at home with parents, you're probably not going to need to take out a private loan. If you're living in an apartment, depending on what your cost is and what kind of support you have from family, will determine that. And so that's where budgeting comes in, is planning that out and figuring out what you need.
All right. Other questions, y'all? As a doctor, I hate talking about money. So I love Janice because she talks about it for me. So thank you, Janice. And I'm sorry that this is going to sound negative about financial aid, and I don't mean it that way at all, but our next Zoom is way more fun. Um,
I
um,
don't take any offense at that. When I was in college, I hated going to the financial aid office.
yes, same,
Too
but I
much
will
work
tell
in it
you,
for my
Janice makes
entire
it
career.
much better. I'm sorry. Um,
Oh.
okay, so I think we'll wrap up for today. Put our next Zoom on your calendar where we're going to talk about um, places to live, and we will include in that some information about how much different apartments cost and things where you can find a roommate and things like that, if that's something that you're interested in. If you haven't gotten on UpSquad and introduced yourself, hop on and meet your new classmates and introduce yourself. Tell us something interesting about yourself. Um, and have a great Memorial Day weekend coming up and a great summer. And we'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks. If you all have more follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Jennifer, to me, to Janice, to any of the folks in the admissions office. We are all happy to help. We may not know the answer, but we will send you to the person that we think can answer the question, answer your question. Jen also mentioned that you can look for roommates and housing on UpSquad as well.